Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to be back.
Yeah, our listeners always bring us the most interesting stuff, and today is no exception. Today, we're taking a look at excerpts from the Camino Within book by Tarek Riman.
Right.
You ever heard of this one?
I have, yeah. It's all about his experiences, his personal experiences, particularly biking the Camino de Santiago.
Yeah, and that's kind of the backdrop. But what we're really going to unpack today is this idea, this theme that runs through it about how we all deal with the difficult stuff in life, those unexpected things that pop up, and, that human tendency to kind of immediately focus on what could go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Like, how do we deal with those curveballs that life throws at us?
Exactly, exactly. And the author starts in this really relatable place, talking about things like, a sudden breakup that just kind of throws you for a loop.
Oh, yeah. Or, those little everyday frustrations like being locked out of your house, or even, and this one I thought was really funny, that absurdity of like walking into a lamppost when you're so caught up in being angry about something.
Yeah, we've all been there, right?
Totally. Those moments where you're just like, wait, how did I even get here? It's that feeling of being totally blindsided by life's unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah, it's like life just throws a curveball and you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
And it's so fascinating because he uses this experience, this really challenging experience of actually biking the Camino as this sort of lens, this metaphor,
Yeah.
to look at those broader life difficulties.
Interesting.
He talks about like the actual physical and mental demand of it, the long and sometimes extreme biking, as he puts it, and how it really forced him to shift his focus. Instead of getting caught up in all the things that could go wrong on the trip, like, getting a flat tire or getting lost or just being exhausted, he really had to learn to just focus on what he could actually do. Like right there in the moment, to keep moving forward, to make progress, to push through those setbacks, as he calls them.
I like that. That's a good way to put it.
So today, our mission, if you will, is to explore how this whole Camino metaphor can maybe offer some real practical insights for tackling whatever challenges you might be facing right now.
That's a great goal. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, I think so too. And one of the key points he makes early on, it's almost like a warning, is about something he calls the trap of what could go wrong.
Okay, yeah.
He argues, and I think this is so important, that if you let your mind become dominated by those potential negative outcomes, all those what ifs, it actually becomes a roadblock to getting where you want to go.
It's almost like setting yourself up for failure, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're almost creating a self-fulfilling prophecy just by focusing on the possibility of things going wrong.
Interesting.
And there's this great story he tells. He's actually on the Camino trying to disconnect from work, really get away from it all.
Of course.
But of course, a client emergency pops up.
Yeah, that's always how it goes.
It's like the classic modern dilemma, right? That blurring of those lines between our work lives and our personal lives.
Right.
So he gets this message from his business partner about a client in Quebec who urgently needs to talk, like at 6 p.m. their time, which for him in Spain is, 1 a.m.
Oh, wow. Brutal.
Yeah, like the middle of the night. So, imagine you're in this situation, and what are the first things that probably pop into your head?
Well, you'd probably think, oh, there's no way I can handle this right now. I'm in a hostel. It's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of thoughts like, how am I going to make this work?
Exactly. Like you'd think about the lack of privacy in a hostile, maybe unreliable internet.
Yeah, right. Totally.
You might even worry about, the client hearing all the hostile noises in the background and thinking, what's going on there?
Yeah, it's just a recipe for things to go wrong.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Instead of letting all those potential problems, paralyze him, he actually just goes into problem-solving mode.
Okay, so what does he do?
He ends up going out into the night, like pitch black, laptop in hand, and somehow he manages to find a solution and handle the whole situation.
Wow.
And I think it's in that moment that he has this huge realization that there's always a way.
It's good realization.
It's not about pretending the difficulties aren't there. It's about, cultivating that belief that you can find a workaround.
Right.
Even when it seems like there's no way out. And he even mentions, like he finds internet access outside the hostel. Just a little detail that shows how sometimes the solution comes from the most unexpected place.
Yeah, like you never know what you're going to find. It's almost like the universe provides sometimes.
It's true. It's like when you shift your focus from this is impossible to how can I make this work, things start to fall into place.
You open yourself up to new possibilities, right?
Exactly.
Like that anecdote is really powerful. It shows how much our mindset matters, right?
It really does. And, it wasn't just external challenges he had to deal with. He also talks about his own internal resistance to even starting the Camino in the first place.
I can imagine.
All the excuses we tell ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
He had a whole list. Things like being away from his clients, the thought of being alone for so long, feeling like the timing was off, worrying about money,
Yeah.
even thinking he wasn't in good enough shape.
It's so easy to talk yourself out of things.
It's so true. And what's really insightful is that he realizes he's embracing only the negative.
Right.
Just focusing on what might go wrong and not even considering the potential benefits or his own ability to adapt and handle things.
Yeah, that could be a real trap.
It is. It's like our own minds can be the biggest obstacle sometimes. And then he uses this great metaphor. He talks about life being like a mountainous climb with a lot of setbacks.
I like that.
Which is pretty realistic, right?
Yeah, it's not always going to be an easy, smooth journey.
No, there will be ups and downs, times when you feel like you're on top of the world and times when you're struggling to even take the next step.
You have to be ready for those setbacks.
Exactly. You have to be a fighter. And that ties into this idea of pushing beyond our comfort zones. He uses this analogy of sparring partners where he says, if you're always winning, you're probably not challenging yourself enough.
It makes sense.
You need to be in the ring with people or situations that push you, even if it means you might fail.
I mean, this is something for our listeners to think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often are you seeking out those challenges? Or are you sticking to what feels safe and familiar?
It's a good question. And what the author found is that those so-called failures you have when you push yourself, they can actually be the most valuable lessons, setting you up for successes you wouldn't have achieved otherwise.
Like they say, you learn more from your mistakes than your successes.
It's true. And the really big message here, the thing that really resonates throughout the book, is about learning to embrace the fear.
Okay.
To have faith that there's a way through.
It's not about being fearless, right?
No, I don't think that's realistic for most people. It's more about acknowledging that fear is there. It's going to be there.
But not letting it stop you.
Yeah, choosing to take action anyway, trusting that you'll figure it out as you go.
That takes courage, though, right?
It does. It takes courage and faith. But it's about believing in yourself, believing that you can find solutions.
So how does the author connect this to his actual experiences on the Camino? It seems like a pretty abstract idea.
Yeah, but he talks about how pushing himself on this journey actually led to some really tangible improvements.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Like his training became more focused, his biking technique got better, he built up his endurance, he became more flexible both physically and mentally, and overall he just developed a more resilient mindset.
Wow.
So yeah, he provides really concrete examples of how stepping outside your comfort zone can lead to some serious personal growth.
That's inspiring.
It is. And, let's bring it back to our listeners now. How can they take these lessons from the Camino and apply them to their own lives?
Yeah, that's the important part.
He gives some really relatable examples, like imagine you have to travel for work and you get that anxiety about being in a new environment, juggling all your responsibilities.
Yeah, it can be stressful.
Or maybe you have a big presentation coming up, a client meeting that feels high stakes, a job interview, even thinking about going back to school or starting a new hobby.
Those are all situations where you might feel some fear or resistance.
Absolutely. And let's not forget relationships, which, oh boy, can bring up a whole other set of worries.
It's natural to feel that way, but
Yeah.
it's part of being human.
Exactly. And I think what the author is saying is that it's okay to feel those things. It's normal.
Don't beat yourself up for feeling that way.
No, don't. But what's important is to have that underlying belief that you can make it work, to cultivate that inner confidence and tap into your own resourcefulness.
Because you do have it.
You do. So to really sum it up, the big takeaway from the Camino Within is this. Embrace each situation, whatever it throws at you.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of letting your mind get stuck on everything that could go wrong, consciously try to shift your energy towards figuring out what you can make happen.
Yeah, what can you create? What can you control?
Which exactly.
Because by focusing on those solutions and trusting your ability to handle whatever comes up, you're setting yourself up to overcome those obstacles and achieve your goals, just like the author did on his challenging but ultimately transformative Camino journey.
And that's a great point. It's not just about surviving the tough stuff. It's about using it as an opportunity to grow and learn.
That's a great point.
So here's a final thought for everyone listening. Think about a challenge you're facing right now, big or small,
Mhm.
and ask yourself, how might shifting your focus away from what could go wrong and towards what you can create actually change your approach to that challenge?
How might it change the outcome?
How might it change the outcome? It's all about taking this insight from our deep dive today and seeing how it can inform your next steps. How can you apply this to your own personal Camino, whatever that might look like for you?
And how can you approach it with a sense of possibility and agency?
With that, we'll wrap up our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining
See you
us.
next time.
See you next time.